Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Philadelphia Latino Film Festival Filmmaker offering. This session is the Afro Latinx characters in film and the episodic series. So we will specifically talk about how the independent content producer can help create visibility for the Afro Latinx characters and storyline. So my name is Eunice Levi. I am an American Dominican writer, director, and producer. My target genre is typically sci-fi and horror, and I am currently developing an episodic series titled Invade about an undocumented Dominican family navigating an alien invasion. My co-panelist is Leslie Rivera.
Hola, ¿cómo están, mi gente? My name is Leslie Rivera. Here in the U.S. In Puerto Rico is Leslie Rivera. And I was born in Puerto Rico, now here in Philadelphia. I am a writer-director. I am currently working on a 5-part streaming series called Papi Ramirez versus Giant Scorpions. And like Eunice, my main genres these days are horror and sci-fi as well.
Awesome. So film and television content has experienced a surge in diversity, more so recently in the last 10 years than ever before. And for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to focus on works that are produced and or consumed in the United States. So I'm going to share some posters from film works that have featured, let me get this together, that have featured characters that are Black characters or brown characters in the past and up until our most recent. And although there has been a significant progression, it's still not significant. Right.
Eunice,
Yeah.
Where are the Afro Latinx characters in those movies, though? Where are they? Can you tell me where they are?
So there are two distinct issues with the way content is being currently diversified. So Black and brown characters have in the past played a particular role in sci-fi and horror. Such as like the Oracle, the Sage, Wisdom Giver, the First Victim, as we all know. And in the later roles now, they're more so the lead and heroes. And this is an enormous step up, but it leads to a second issue, which is that the Black character is one-dimensional. So it's not to say that the character is not complex, but more that it lacks, for lack of a better word, they're just Black. It's a checkbox, really. So at least when it comes to representing the African diaspora. So the Black character rarely incorporates culture, language, and other things to that round out a character. So some things that are highlighted are usually stereotypical of the Black character. And in sci-fi and horror, the character's Blackness is almost always superficial.
Wait. Even when the lead tell me. Sorry, Eunice, you mean to tell me that it can be a Black character, but, for example, it's not a Black character who eats arroz y habichuelas?
Exacto.
Who doesn't have an abuela that he calls every other week?
Definitely not. It's all superficial.
Okay.
So even when the lead character is clearly Black, like in Black Panther, Blade, Get Out, and Us, those characters do not reflect the existence of the Afro Latinx experience. So I want to reimagine some Hollywood's top sci-fi horror films and TV shows with Black characters that show ethnicity, culture, and language. So some of those top Hollywood films, Dom, can you play clip number 2? Or rather, number 2, the first clip.
Planet Earth, home to over 6 billion people. Today, our very existence is threatened by epidemics, climate change, and dwindling resources. But those are the least of our problems. Welcome to Zombieland.
My mother always told me, someday you'll be good at something. I mean, I don't think she could have guessed that something would be zombie killing. What do you think? Zombie kill of the week?
Close, but no cigar. Zombie Kill of the Week went to Miss Cynthia Knickerbocker.
I got this feeling. It's a weird feeling. The cabin starts to shake, right? And the left side blows up, and then the whole plane just explodes. The plane can explode! It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
We get thrown off the plane, all because Brownie has a bad dream?
I saw it.
The plane! It's gonna blow up! It's gonna blow up!
All 287 passengers are feared dead.
Because of you, I'm still alive.
In death, there are no accidents. No coincidences. And no escapes.
Did it happen again? Did you see Todd die?
What if it was our time? What if we were not meant to get off that plane? What if there is a design that it's not finished?
By walking off the plane, you're cheating death. You have to figure out when it's coming back at you.
What are you, God now?
He knows which one of us is next.
You have a responsibility to tell me.
I knew I should have hit on Tammy in the pool that time.
Every small town has a story.
Liz.
Max. It's been a long time.
10 years.
Roswell was a sleepy cowboy settlement in post-war America. Until one day, something extraordinary happened.
You already know the legend. We think these are what kept us safe during the crash.
The crash?
1947 UFO crash.
I know you think you're safe, but you're not. Aliens have already ruined your life.
I am married to someone who can't ever know who I am, and that kills me.
This is probably a bad idea.
I thought we were ignoring that in favor of the whole sex thing.
You can't ever be with Liz or Tico. Because even if she finds out what we are, there are things you can't ever tell her.
Max trusts Liz. But if he's wrong, we'll get inside of her head and erase it.
Everything I've ever done has been to protect Isabel and you!
Everything you've ever done has been to protect yourself!
After high school, you would have followed me.
Anywhere.
What are you, Max?
Liz? No.
You ask me what I am? I'm just a guy.
We could do it, you know. Take off, live in the woods.
They'd catch us.
Well, maybe not.
We wouldn't make it 5 miles.
select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
It's your first year, Prim. Your name's only been in there once. They're not gonna pick you.
Primrose Everdeen.
Prim! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute.
Our tribute, Peter Millar and Katniss Everdeen.
They just want a good show. That's all they want.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out.
Yeah, so those were some of Hollywood's top sci-fi horror films and TV shows. And oftentimes I like to reimagine what that would look like if we had Afro Latinx characters in them. So like Final Destination with Black characters in say Puerto Rico, or Nightmare on Elm Street with a Cuban lead, or Elliot in E.T. is Panamanian, or Marty from Back to the Future is Colombian. So it's really fun to reimagine it, and it's also really inspiring that those stories do not exist, and that you get to create it as a content creator. Also, as a content
real quick.
Yeah.
I can tell you that if you are in the island of Puerto Rico, there are many more different ways to die, Final Destination style, that you would not get in the setting where that movie was set. So, yeah, I mean, coconuts falling on you? No, that doesn't really happen. But I'm just saying, like, there are so many things, like, specific to our culture that, could be interesting to add to that, to bring a new twist to it, to those kinds of stories.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely refresh the genre and inject a little bit of just change in it, while also just amplifying our voice and our presence in these types of stories. Because, not being included in like the Hunger Games, like there was not one brown face. How could that be a whole faction that they're, in a lottery and not one brown face in the entire group of people? So I think that, at least in that scene, so I think that it is a form of erasure, even though at the time when you're viewing it, it's not really, you're involved and committed to the story. And so you don't really think about it. But once you digest it and say, man, in a utopian or dystopian or the future, we don't exist in this world. So it really is up to us to create those opportunities to write ourselves into the history of this genre.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off what you said, every time, well, first of all, I kind of have stopped watching sci-fi films because now in my older age, they just seem very unreal to me. And I'm not talking about the sci-fi aspect of it. I'm talking about a sci-fi movie filled with white folks, like, and no Black person doing anything significant in the film. It just doesn't seem realistic to me. I mean, you want to tell me that, I don't know, 1,000 years from now, 200 years from now, that that's what it looks like?
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks very unrealistic to me. And it really has kind of destroyed the genres for me, or the genre of sci-fi, especially as I get older. When I was I have to admit, one of my favorite sci-fi movies is Flash Gordon, like the one scored by Queen. Flash, save every one of us. Like, I freaking love that movie and the music and everything. And like you mentioned earlier, the first character to be killed was a Black man. It was the Black guy from the tribe. I believe that's where like that kick from 300 came from, because I think I believe no, sorry, in Flash Gordon, the guy got stabbed with the sword and he had green blood. Okay, it's all coming back, but like yeah, it's all coming back, but like that was it. That was the only representation of brown people in that movie. And that was like in another planet.
Right.
In another planet. I could have at least bought it if the people were, he had green blood. He could have been green. Some of the other people could have been red and purple and all other colors. But, you know, that's just me. Like,
right.
I have a hard time these days with science fiction because it just does not, character-wise, it does not look realistic to me.
Yeah. So I 100% agree. I think that, like, as I was saying, in terms of, so a couple of years ago, right, I was pitching a story to a producer. And in the story, a Black man from the Bronx saves the world. When I was done, he made a comment that changed how I write profoundly. He said that it was just not believable that a Black guy from the hood can save the world. And he said it in such a comfortable way, like, you know, it's just not believable. So now that's the only shit I write. Like, Black and brown people who are the heroes of their own stories is what I'm attracted to. And so the only way that we can diversify film and TV content is by telling our own stories with characters that look and sound like us. So if the person developing the character doesn't know enough or doesn't know enough, yeah, they will instinctively make the character what they do know. And sometimes they'll throw it in there and it'll be a Black and brown face, but it's the same character. So so that kind of led me to developing more content that had to do, that featured Black and brown faces and stories. There's many ways that we can do that, even if we don't have control over the project that we're working in. As a content developer, you can do things to create visibility, like, you know, throw in a dance that's culturally relevant, or slang word, or a saying, or call your mama, you know, any little thing to kind of add some moment of cultural, like a cultural nod that creates visibility. And it becomes part of the language, you know, in the story and in that genre. So I think that that's really important. I wanted to share an image of Invade. Invade, like I said, is the series that I'm developing, and these are a sketch. This is a sketch of the characters that I've developed. Dom, do you want me to take it, or can you share clip 3?
And while he's doing that, I'm still swole that Will Smith did not recognize what the Matrix was going to be. He could have been Neo.
He could have been.
Oh, Will
could have changed the.
Okay, go ahead, Lonnie.
So that is some concept art for the series of Invade. Again, it's an alien invasion story, and it's my baby, and that's something that I'm working on right now. I know that Les, his project, Papi Ramirez versus the Giant Scorpions, is about to hit your streaming very soon on Father's Day. Les, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
So Papi Ramirez came from, I wanted to make a feature film very, very badly. Well, actually, let me backtrack. I was living in North Carolina, and I wanted to be creative, and I don't know exactly where the idea came from. I guess maybe I thought I was going to be in North Carolina. I needed to get some business. You know, I'm a freelance videographer, so I needed a studio, and I rented out a rental storage unit, and I threw up a permanent green screen, and I just had the space. And then I went over there on a Friday night around 11 p.m. and decided, hey, you know, I'm gonna make a little scene of this guy in the desert. I had just bought like a scale model miniature car, and I was like, I'm just gonna be driving in the desert and something's gonna happen. And that something became, I'm gonna hit an alien in the like at midnight, in the middle of the night. I'm gonna hit an alien out in the desert, and I'm by myself. And so I filmed that. I filmed that night. Wrote it right there, filmed it. Filmed myself in front of the green screen, filmed the scale model miniature car, and I used stock footage as the backgrounds. And it came together pretty well. And so after that, I was like, you know what, let me keep doing stuff like this. So I started loosely making more scenes like that. It was like, 1950 style, 1940 style, black and white B-movie style. And I was really digging it. And then I had about 20 minutes of footage. It didn't all kind of like fit together, but like, it was the same car. It was all out in the desert. And I was like, okay, this could be something. Let me send it to the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival and tell them, hey, I have a feature film. Would you be interested in screening it? And to my big surprise, they said yes. And so here I was about 4 months away from the festival. I had to create another hour of a feature film that did not exist. It just so happened that I had bought these little remote controlled scorpions. And I had done a scene where like I turned them into giants and they were chasing me. And so at that moment, I was like, I looked at what I had and I was like, okay, I got to make this movie about these giant scorpions chasing me in the desert. And that's how Papi Ramirez versus Giant Scorpions was born. And then to take it a step further, my daughter, I love my daughter. I love being a father. My daughter is a Scorpio. And so with that connection, like the story became even more personal to me. So I made it about a soon-to-be father who, he's not only fighting for his life, he wants to meet his daughter. So it made it even more personal. And for me, it started becoming the story about the fears I had as a father when my wife was pregnant. And if I was going to be able to provide the way I thought you're supposed to provide as a father, was I ready financially? Was I ready emotionally? Like the entire movie became that. And that's how Papi Ramirez came to be. And so I did screen it last year at the film festival, at the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival. Thank you to them. It was great. It was a
very supportive festival. Very supportive.
Yeah. But like I made the film within a 3-month period, and for a feature film, like that's from beginning to end, that is crazy. 3 months to make a feature film, crazy. So after the festival, I had a couple private screenings. And, this last year has been the process of editing, which really this year should have been when I should have screened Papi Ramirez. You know what I'm saying? After about a year of editing the project. But from the screenings and, other people's feedback, I turned it into a 5-part series, and it works so much better as a series. And if we can show the video of, this is a teaser of what I have so far. Do we have that?
Yes, we do. Hold on.
Let's show that, and then
it is number. Hold on, Dom. That's number 4.
I'm worried that we have no savings, we have no money, and a baby on the way.
Action.
Get some. I feel like I need to find a better job, something that pays better,
Mi amor, me hace falta.
Mira, mi amor, this gig is done, and I am on my way home.
Mama, we're hungry, Mama.
Ooh.
Okay, so that wasn't the trailer of Papi Ramirez versus Giant Scorpions. That was a teaser of it. The trailer is coming soon. 5-part series, shot entirely in a rental storage unit in front of a green screen. All the miniatures and the sets are, sorry, all the props and sets are miniatures, and all the backgrounds stock footage. And that's how I created the thing. Like, people ask, how do I get into this? How do I make these kind of movies? How do I get into this genre? Sometimes you just got to get creative, and you got to use the tools that are at hand. If you only have, you just got to use what you have at hand. And for me also, I didn't want to, so you can go with that two ways. You can, what do I have at hand? Well, my uncle owns a barbershop. Oh, I can make a movie at a barbershop. But I didn't want to think about it like that. I wanted to think about it in terms of, I want to make something with big action set pieces and, things that I was really into as a child when it came to sci-fi movies, horror movies, thrillers, and action movies. And, I felt like the B movie genre, particularly like the giant monster movie genre, was perfect because I could give it a look. It didn't all have to look real, but I could still create these like gigantic Hollywood style set pieces that would still work and would still, as they say, get the adrenaline of the audience going.
Right.
And so it was a blast. I had so much fun creating that thing. So much fun. So, I mean, what I would say to other filmmakers is, look at the resources you have around you, but you got to also look at the resources in your brain.
Right.
Use the resources in your brain because you can come up with incredible things. Definitely. You don't have a lot. Because I feel like that was the only thing I had was my brain, and that's what I tried to use to create Papi Ramirez versus Giant Scorpions.
Yeah. So that so obviously there's two ways of going about sci-fi and horror, and one is you want to make it look as authentic as possible, and you put so much pressure on yourself to have practical effects, pay for a special effects person, there's so much to do. So in my piece, I'm trying to make it look as realistic as possible. So I think that there is so much freedom when you embrace it not necessarily looking completely real. You get to play a lot like that. You're having a lot of fun, and that's fantastic. I think that I found, even with following your work, and I've mentioned this to you before, that I found like working with miniatures is an option for me, which I never considered before. Green screen, we're finally embracing that and learning the tool. And it is a legitimate Hollywood shortcut, and we can use it too. So I'm going to jump into some of the questions that are here. I'm going to read it out loud because I'm not sure if everyone can see it. So Mansi on PHLAFF.org commented, Indian cinema is just recently, the past 10 years, producing sci-fi movies. Mostly they produce predictable romantic musical movies. My problem with that is the fact that the productions and the sci-fi effects are bad. The characters are not fleshed out, and that makes it harder to watch the story. So I feel your pain. And I completely understand it. It's the same situation when you have a very low budget but a big idea, or you just want to do the movie. I think that when you have a small budget or no budget at all, I think that the best thing to do is have a really solid script, or at least a solid concept, and build your team. And you can reach out to people who have done things that have the look that you want and start to work with them from there. You can reach out. There's a ton of things. Let's say that you really like M. Night Shyamalan, and you go on IMDb and you search, his creative team, and you say, okay, let's see, and just start working from there. Start seeing, what else has this team done? Is this really the look I want? what's the type of budget they work with? What does it take to have this polished look versus the look that's more campy, let's say. And then forgive yourself for that, because sometimes it isn't a look campy and that's your first attempt. And then when you get a bigger budget, it looks better and better and better. Or sometimes campy it is. And it works too. And it's fun and it still tells a story. And if you have a really good story, it doesn't matter what it looks like really, because your story is kick-ass and you're learning. So it's so Manti, it's a mixture of getting a team assembled, getting clips or examples of what you want it to look like, and really digging into what the technology is that you need to make it how you want it, how you want it to look.
I want to say something about that too. Yeah. I actually have seen a lot of incredible action films and thrillers in the Indian cinema. And when I say incredible, I mean like action set pieces that they are not pulling off in Hollywood films. Now, I don't know if that's because safety rules are different in Indian productions, but I have seen many incredible movies in Indian cinema and very incredible imagery too. I mean, such great images that they use from their, from the Hindi religion and all kinds of different things, that's based on the culture. So, I mean, I would just keep searching. It's very hard. Well, it's weird. It's very hard to pull off really good sci-fi special effects, but people are doing it. People are doing it. So if that's something that you're aspiring to do, like just keep going, keep at it, keep refining your technique, because it'll just get better and better. And Hollywood isn't the only place that we should go to get that kind of imagery.
I was just going to say that this is a great opportunity to redefine what sci-fi looks like. The sci-fi in your mind is Hollywood tinted. We have a phenomenal opportunity to redefine what horror is, what sci-fi looks like, what it feels like. It doesn't necessarily have to look like anything you've ever seen. So the idea of it looking cheesy or the special effects are bad, that could be the norm. That can be like something people aspire to do. So there's this really good opportunity for us to tell a story that people have never seen. And who cares if the sci-fi looks cheesy? Maybe, like I said, it's so different and so unique to the location of the story or the culture that's in the story, that it's forgiven, and it's actually something that is that people will consume a little easier than you trying to replicate what Hollywood, what a Brad Pitt movie would do. Replicating isn't the way to go. It's really defining your own. I would say that.
That's true. Let's take another question.
Yeah, you want to go for it? The next one is
from Julie, and Julie asks, "Would you share some more cultural nods? You mentioned slang, etc. Some more cultural nods. Why don't you go for it, and I'll follow."
Okay, so cultural nods, obviously, it would be something like language, like I said, dance, slang words, sayings, dichos, how we say it in Spanish. You can also just dress, a hat, or guayabera, whatever it is that can culturally put a stamp on that character without you saying, "Hey, I'm Puerto Rican." It's more so like the mannerisms and just the likes and those kind of things. It's almost like a prop that you bring on set, and you're filling out your character and you're making a presence. And it doesn't have to necessarily be, like I said, a stamp on what the character is. If the character speaks French, or the character, is a dancer, or whatever it is that the character could do, you can kind of embellish on that and round out your character with little things that will kind of solidify where they are, and open a conversation like, "Hey, this person is not necessarily African American, because when we see Hollywood films, the majority of Black and brown faces are American, especially Black faces, Black characters. The assumption is that they are American. So to see the larger diaspora kind of on film is exciting, and you have a lot of little things that you can work with. Les.
Yeah, I mean, things like food, things like salsa dancing, and things that are specific to the culture. I mean, it's just a different energy. All these things bring a different energy to the film, to the characters. I'm trying to think of some other things. I'm thinking of some of the masks that are worn in parades in Puerto Rico with like the coconut with the spikes coming out. I forgot, blanking out on the name of those. But there's so many things that, and sometimes these are like small little details, but you take 10 little small details and they completely round out a character.
It could also be your set design. It doesn't even, you don't have to say anything, and you can have an altar, in the background and just never mention it. Like, it's just natural. So, there's little things that you can do, or you can light a candle, or you can introduce a character praying, or anything like that can have some kind of relevance to your character and kind of just amplify that experience. The existence is there, and then you've established that. No one can ever take that away from your character. And it's like, hey, did you notice that there was an altar in this scene? But it works. One scene that I actually saw recently, I saw a movie. It was Knives Out. And there's a scene where the mother and the daughter are in the kitchen, and the two daughters are in the kitchen, and on the table they have plátanos. I was like, all right, that's great design. That's you're paying attention. There's a Greca coffee maker on the stove, and she had a couple of onions and stuff in a bowl, and it was just very sensitive to what a Hispanic or Latinx household would have in their kitchen. I like that attention to detail.
Wait, and did you say Knives Out?
Knives Out, yeah.
The one okay. Gotcha. I'm thinking, I just watched Ready or Not, and I was thinking of that. But Knives Out. Knives Out is the Clue like movie, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Whodunit.
I haven't seen that yet. I have to peep that.
It's really well done. It's really well done. Okay. That was a lot of fun, and that's the way.
Set design. I'm glad you mentioned set design, because a sci-fi movie set in the island with the pastel colors, a lot of sci-fi is like metallic and gray and dark.
Yeah.
I want to see sci-fi in the island. I want to see the pastel colors. I want to see all the technology married with the pastel colors, with the architecture. Most of the houses are made out of cement. They're not steel per se. They just look different. It just looks different. And, like you said, you bring all these different details into it, and you're going to have something that you haven't seen before.
Absolutely. See, I'll read the next one, and you want to take it? So let's see. What do you recommend to filmmakers who want to pursue this genre? Also, what should they avoid?
You want to go first?
Go for it.
I'm like a just do it person, so I'm just gonna say just do it. Right. But generally these kinds of questions are difficult for me, because like I just said, my answer would be like just do it. Right. But let me see, what should they avoid? I would say avoid trying to get it perfect the first time. Mm-hmm. And that goes right back to my original answer, which is like, just do it.
Yeah.
Do it, get that one done, put it behind you, go on to the next one, go on to the next one, go on to the next one. Because by the 10th one, it's going to look completely different than your first one.
Yeah, you learn
That's
so
what
much.
You just want to keep building.
I agree 100%. I think that specifically in the sci-fi genre, in horror genres, it's a great time to kind of dive into the genre because you're almost like a unicorn. There's not a lot of us that are interested in this genre that are, Latino, Latinx. So this is like the perfect time to kind of ease on in and start to make waves in this industry. I think that a good starting point would be to really get an idea of what is being produced, who are the major players, and your past. What has been produced in the past, and what am I really interested in doing, and what kind of stories am I interested in telling. So I tend to gravitate towards stories that deal with the legacy of family, and also just underserved populations like that. I'm really gravitate towards that. So almost everything that I ever write has a Black or brown character as lead, everything. And it always deals with something social, whether that's, what do we leave our children behind, or what do we leave behind in general, not even to our children, but just in general as our legacy. And I think that it illustrates my own fears of not leaving this earth better. So oftentimes that's what I gravitate towards. But I would suggest that you look for stories and content that really call you and that really work with the types of stories that you want to tell. I also suggest, in terms of avoid, I don't think you should avoid anything when you're still searching for how it is that you want to tell your story. When you find a genre that you kind of fit in, you embrace it and you just do it all. I don't think you should avoid anything. Actually, if you want to do slasher films, try it. Why not? If you want to go and all of a sudden you're just like, you know what? I really want to do gospel, or, I want to do, religious films or whatever it is that you want to do. Like you have to have, you have to feel safe in your creativity, and there's no avoids. I have nothing on that avoid column at all. Go for it all.
Hey, before we continue with the questions, I want to ask you, is there a Afro Latin actor that I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Giancarlo Esposito, which I don't know 100% if he's, I don't think he is. He's not Latino?
No, I think he's Italian, actually. I think he's
really?
Afro-Italian. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But is there anybody that an actor that's Afro Latinx?
There are a few actors that, like Las Alonso, obviously, Zoe Saldana, Dasha Polanco, Elvis Nolasco. So there's a handful of Afro Latino, but you know what?
I don't know some of them.
Yeah, there is an issue with it, and we talk about it in the description of this offering, is that oftentimes Afro Latinx actors have to choose between being Black or being characterized as the Latino talent, which normally doesn't happen for Afro Latinx. So when that happens, they hide behind the Black, their Blackness, and we don't know really what they are. And that's how they survive, and that's how they get jobs. And, it's kind of up to us as creators to find them and say, hey, come to my, come to my bosom. We have a project for you that would embrace all that you are. So,
I'll give you a perfect example. There's a guy I follow on Instagram. His name is Alan Maldonado. Mm-hmm. And he was in The Last OG with Tracy Morgan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw a photo of him working out in the gym, and he had a giant tattoo, and it's Africa with the Puerto Rican flag inside of it. Mm-hmm. I was like, that dude's Boricua? So I messaged him and I was like, yo, are you Boricua? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yo, man, like, I'm gonna make you a giant action movie star someday as Afro Latin, Afro Boricua person.
Right.
I didn't hear nothing after that, but but I'm just saying. But this goes to your point that there's so many actors out there that we just assume they're Black, and then come to find out, yo, Puerto Riqueño, he's Boricua.
Right. There's more to your Blackness. Right?
Yeah, and you know, so they're out there. They're definitely out there. But you're right. They either have to choose one or the other, and generally they choose Black because
it's superficial.
Yeah,
you know,
and Latin films, you know, what, like a Black character in a Latin film, like you don't see that. But well, you don't see it because like they don't get the opportunity.
Right. Exactly. So I'm gonna continue on. So, this is not a question. This is a comment. Poppy and the Scorpions looks lit. That's Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wait till you see his poster art. I love it. He's going to share it shortly. And we have another question. Is why sci-fi horror as filmmaking genre? Why not drama or comedy? Why is sci-fi special for you? You want to take that?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Oh, did you say, do you want? Oh, you want me to take well, no, I can. Okay, I'll take it first. So these are the kind of movies that I loved as a child. Like I loved Escape from New York. I loved, like I mentioned, Flash Gordon. I loved They Live. Like a lot of these kinds of movies, but I never saw myself in these movies. I really, really love old Hollywood movies, but again, I mean, you won't see any Black characters in that, let alone Afro Latin characters. So that is why for me, is because in a strange, weird way, I want to just make those movies, but see somebody like me in the lead role. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm doing a remix. I'm doing a remix of everything I loved.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? And you know, I have in the past, in some short films, I have done films, you know, that addresses racism and issues that affect us. But man, I gotta be honest. Sometimes I just want to make something. Sometimes I just want to see me on the screen being heroic in a you know, in a fictional kind of way. And by that, I mean, like, sometimes I just want to see me like holding up a building or a car, or, you know, flying through the air, or battling aliens, you know, not necessarily like, you know, that some of the issues and problems that we have in our society, not necessarily injecting those as they are, but also flipping them. And I feel like sci-fi and horror allows us to do that. Allows us to, you know, to deal with things, you know, in a personal way and also in an entertaining way. And I'm not saying that, you know, movies that deal with racism and social issues are not entertaining, but for me, I just don't. I've done a lot of that before, and I want to do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. In terms of why sci-fi and horror, I think that drama and comedy, first, those are not my strong suits. I enjoy them, but in terms of what I prefer to write about and gravitate towards in terms of developing stories, that's always where my brain goes. I think that what excites me about sci-fi is that there is no limit. There's just no limit. It's fun to imagine and to, you know, create a whole new world that does not exist. It gives you the ability to be anyone that you want to be, and say anything that you want to say in the safety of it not having to make sense, because you're in a genre, whether it's fantasy, sci-fi, or horror, that doesn't have to make sense. Obviously the story has to be fantastic for people to like it, but for the most part, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just the emotion that I'm trying to get through, and it's the message, and it's the imagery, and that is what I love about it. I don't have to tell a love story or a story of loss or a story of friendship. And I could, if I wanted to. I can include all of those things in my sci-fi and in horror film. I can make a love story happen on Mars. And that is amazing to me. That is the whole point of it. So that's my personal reason why. You got a lot of questions.
I want to say something else about this too.
Yeah.
And thinking about it further, I really love silent cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like horror films are basically silent cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much also sci-fi, although like in sci-fi you're trying to I don't want to say explain, but there's a lot of ideas that you're trying to get across that are talked. It's just characters talking to each other about some of these things. Mm-hmm. And I don't hate dialogue scenes, but I prefer just visuals. I prefer doing, set pieces. I prefer an image saying with the mise-en-scène and the lighting and all these things that we have at our disposal as filmmakers. Mm-hmm. I want to use dialogue. I want dialogue to be the last thing that I have to use. And I personally find it easier to do that with horror and with sci-fi. And I find it easier to express my ideas visually in those genres than I do with comedy and drama. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan. And for this reason, I'm a big fan of French filmmaker Jacques Tati, who made very funny movies, but they were all essentially like silent films. I'm a big fan of Buster Keaton, So, and his films were comedic as well. But I don't know. People are not used to that. Comedy these days are like characters riffing back and forth, like improvising, being funny. And I enjoy those movies as much as everybody else. I enjoy the talkathons of Quentin Tarantino as much as everybody else. But for me personally, as a filmmaker, I like just image, next image. And horror and sci-fi, that's what does it for me.
Awesome. Next question. I gotta scroll up. What are some sci-fi films or TV shows you recommend that are diverse? That's short.
A hard one. I'll take that really first.
You want me to take it?
Yeah.
Okay. So films, we shared some at the top of the hour that were diverse, not necessarily with Afro Latinx characters, but with characters of color in general, like obviously Jordan Peele's Get Out, Us, the back in the day, People Under the Stairs, Black Villa and stuff like that. Contemporary stuff that I actually can remember. So there's I've been watching it on Netflix since we've been quarantined. So I watched the entire series of Letter to a King. The lead character is a young man of color.
How was that? I tried it, and after about episode 2, I was like, next one. Does it get better?
It gets better. Yeah, I liked it. It's kind of like Game of Thrones for teens. And I liked it. It does have its sci-fi supernatural moments, and it gets more like that as it progresses because his powers are developing. So that was a good first series. Raising Dion is another one about a little boy who has special powers. What else?
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So pretend you take Game of Thrones and make the entire cast Black, all right? Or Afro Latinx, all right? what would you say to the person that says, hey, why are you doing that instead of bringing African culture into it? Why has it got to be like the Scandinavian, European culture with Black characters? I mean, is that a valid question? Is it valid for you to do that, to make that kind of
I
genre film?
Yeah, as creators, you can do whatever the hell you want. Like if I want to make everybody in Russia Black, I can do that. I'm creating it and it's my story. So that's the beauty of like developing your own content. It's like no one can tell you that that's impossible. How are you going to tell me it's my world and I'm producing it and you're seeing it, so it's possible? I think that anything is possible. Whether the believability of it is in question, then it's your job as a content developer to make it believable. Whether it's that this is a tribe, of folks that live there, and then this is how the story, like if it needs to be explained in historical context, then that will happen at some point in the series to make it relevant, even if that's a lie as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the beauty of film is that you can be anyone, anywhere. And I think that it will be believable if you produce it and you set it up correctly.
Cool. Shall we take another question?
Yeah.
So
Nancy
writes, I think it also has to do with the Blackness of the actor. Many films directors do not cast darker skinned actors. So maybe that's why the actor just pick one part of their identity over the other. I think that's in reference to, why the Latinx actors choose to go perform as Black people instead of as a
Black.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nancy, you're absolutely right. There's, this is a big component of why they choose one identity over the other. And sometimes they're not even given the opportunity to choose the Latinx identity at all. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is the point of having conversations like this, is to create opportunities that we can, create visibility for these characters and the existence of the African diaspora. So this is exactly what we're talking about. And you're absolutely right.
You want to take the next one?
Oh, sure. If so much horror, it's obvious who is going to get killed first, and usually most violently. If nothing else but for the element of surprise, let's shock our audiences by making that character the one who kicks butt and saves everyone. Heck yeah. Yes, Julie, exactly. Exactly. You know what was disappointing to me? I was watching Bird Box. And oh my gosh, the comedian, I don't know why I forget his name. It's sad that I'm forgetting his name because I know his name. But anyway, the comedian, he did a really good job. And he was actually, as we said at the top of the hour again, his character was the character that told them exactly what was going to happen and gave them all the clues of how to survive. And then he dies. And I'm like, he told them every single clue. Why did he die? Why did he have to die? And I know that is a Sandra Bullock, she was going to be ultimately the person who survived, but geez, let the man at least live a little bit. But the way they use the character is typical of how they use Black characters in horror and sci-fi and fantasy, is that they're this, the sage wisdom giver and, save yourselves. This is how I've been watching, and this is what happens, and this is how you save yourself. And then he ends up saving people, and the person who gets saved is usually white, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. Like, and that goes back to the unbelievability that I was talking about before. Like, it's just not real.
Yeah.
It's just not real. Every time I see that, it messes the entire movie up for me. Yeah. I'll be watching a movie with my wife, and we'll be a good 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 45 minutes into it, and something like that happens, and I'm like, it just ruins the rest of the movie or the rest of the series for me.
Yeah.
Because I was there along with you. I was there on the journey, and you just destroyed it.
Yeah.
Destroyed it by this. And I don't know if it's like I don't know if that's done on purpose
Mhm.
or if it's just like you're just so unaware that you're doing that.
Mhm.
But you gotta watch out for that kind of stuff because it'll ruin the movie.
It
It'll
does.
ruin the series.
You're right. I actually, there's nothing that pulls me out of a movie more than the environment not being legitimate. So like, you know, there's a lot of movies that I love, but like if there's a film happening on the beach in California, how the hell are there no Mexicans on the beach? Like, you know, be authentic. Like, you know, have a little Spanish, have a little something going on in the background to kind of, you know, liven it up and give it like some authenticity. But it doesn't always happen. People don't pay attention, and it's not their world, you know. And also, people see through other people that they don't connect to, and that's, you know, it shows. The prejudice shows when they're developing content. So let me see, where are we now?
It's Julie.
Julie. Makes sense that in sci-fi and horror, we can really do world building and ignore all the rules of what has gone before us. Exactly. Where can we follow you and support your work? So let Les, where can they follow you and support your work?
These days, so I have a YouTube channel called Les El Blatino Cine Ninja, and that's Blatino. That's like Latina, but with a B in the front of the Latino, sorry. And then Cine Ninja, CINE, and then Ninja. I do a lot of behind the scenes videos for Papi Ramirez versus Giant Scorpion, and all the little movie magic tricks that I use are there on that YouTube channel. And
informative, guys, really informative.
Oh, thank you. And mostly on Instagram to promote Papi, and that's Les _L_ Latino, Les El Latino. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, and then for me, I don't necessarily have a YouTube channel, but I am on Instagram, and you can find me. What is my Instagram? My Instagram, you can type my name, Eunice, EUNICE, Levis, LEVIS, and you should be able to find me. I look exactly like this because I just updated my profile. And my website is elwuel.com. So it's www.elwell.com.
I gotta get my website game on.
My website is.
It's in the works.
It's in the works.
In the works, yeah. So I mentioned earlier about like the all black Game of Thrones type thing. I actually have been playing with the idea that my next project will be like a Lord of the Rings, like something out in some magical land.
Mm-hmm.
I've been actually thinking of going all the way and just making it all Spanish language.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that could be next. We'll see.
We'll see. So you know, my series I'm developing is bilingual, and one of the things I considered was, and this is just an afterthought, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but one of the things I considered was the translation of it in the bottom, and you know, how distracting would that be for people to see in action, you know, and pay attention to the action. So what I've done is pay special attention to when something is happening and I want the person's eye to be on the action versus when I want them reading, if that's really what, because even English speaking or Spanish speaking people, you still read the subtitles. It's like your brain, something in your brain makes you read it regardless. So, so I'm very careful with mixing a pivotal scene with a wordy scene. I don't want people to be reading. That's just something that I'm very aware of recently because I'm working with bilingual pieces.
Okay. We have a question. What are some tips for young filmmakers?
So, tips. Do you want me to take this first, or do you want to go?
Do you know what you want to say yet, or
Oh, sure.
if you're ready, go for it.
Okay, so tips for young filmmakers. I think that as a young filmmaker, you have such a long trajectory of where you're going to go that you can really start anywhere. I would start documenting or creating stories within my own environment, within your own block, within your own home. Write a short story, write one scene and see what that feels like. See what you like about it. I would, let's say you like mom's breakfast, and then you film her, getting up, making the breakfast, put, all the process and pieces, and tell that story and see how you feel. So as you kind of start developing your toolkit, as I call it, of story telling, you'll figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you don't like, and you start building your repertoire in that way. I think that aside from telling the stories that you have, oftentimes the easiest way that a filmmaker could start is by doing documentary. So one of the things that I did, as I told you guys, I admitted that I have a legacy thing. One of the things that I did early on was film my dad talking to me. He actually passed away 2.5 years ago. So it's a very special piece for me now, but I filmed him telling me a funny story. And that was it. And that was mainly for me, but now I'm like, I can really put this in the documentary of my family if I wanted to do that. But, document your family's history. It's really important, and it helps you tell the story of who you are, who they are. It really gives you the tools. So documentary is a really good starting point.
I absolutely agree with that, especially because you can do that with your phone, and you can edit it in your phone as well, all with free software. Young filmmakers, do not become filmmaking gear geeks. Do not do that. What I want to see young filmmakers become are storytelling geeks. All right? We want the stories to be right. We don't necessarily want the shots to be pretty all the time. We really want the stories to be tight. So use your phone. Use your phone and make a ton of films. Yeah. Like Eunice just said, film your mom making breakfast, film your brother riding a bike, get it from different angles, and then put those images together. There is a magic that happens. Even just somebody riding their bike, and you edit it and you capture it from different angles, and then you put it together. There is a magic to that when you see it, it starts your brain going, and then you start to up your game when it comes to the story and what you can do with it. I feel a lot of times things that stop a lot of young filmmakers are, one, they feel like they don't have the equipment. Throw that out the window. Right. These phones, they shoot 4K. I wish I had this technology when I was a up and coming filmmaker. Because like my first films I shot with a super VHS camera. That thing was this big. That thing was this big, and I had it on my shoulder. Cameras back in my day, 50 years ago. No, I'm not that old, but but cameras were so big. The technology now, you got a little phone and it shoots 4K. Use your phone, number one. Number two, and this is important, don't get stuck on what your first film should be. Just film something from different angles and put it together. That's gonna get your brain going. That's gonna put you in the path of, okay, now that I did that, maybe I can tell this story and do it this way. And before you know it, those stories that are deep inside you, you're gonna be able to tell those stories because your brain will be thinking in images. Your brain will be thinking in
angles and shots, exactly.
And middle, beginning, and end, and these things that become, like you said, like the things that go in your toolbox. But yeah, I see a lot of young filmmakers, they get stuck like, what should my first film be? Because they want to make it this grandiose thing that is going to get them to the top immediately, and it doesn't work like that. So start small and use your phone. You got the technology. There's no reason not to do it. You got the technology. If you have a phone, you got everything you need.
Right. Exactly. And I encourage you to find stories in your communities as well. Like somebody has to document the history and like the culture of your community, which is very different. Find stories in your community. Find, people who own businesses and why do they invest in this community and why do they come here and what do they want? Like those kind of stories that'll get you to understand what is at the core of telling a story. And it'll also help solidify and kind of document a moment in time in that community. But also, you'd be surprised, you can find like really good stories in your communities. A scientist that you didn't know lived there and is now retired and is 100 years old, but he's still there. This like a while ago, I discovered like this, there's a painting that is randomly in the supermarket. And for some reason, one day I just happened to read the plaque, and it was like the first Indian family to live in that area donated the painting. And I would wonder, like, how did it make its way? Like, there's a story there. Obviously, I didn't have time to investigate the story, but the story was so fascinating to me. I was like, why does ShopRite have a painting from an Indian family? It was just so interesting to me. But, so find the interesting stories within your own community and start there.
So we have another question. What do you think about Spanglish film from Julie?
Go for it. I love it. I love it all. I love from silent to Spanglish to completely just even films that have languages that you can't even understand. As long as the imagery is there, the story is there.
Well, that's how a lot of people are speaking now these days.
Right.
You hear it in the music. You got Pitbull in one song spitting in Spanish and in English.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Latinx artists are doing that.
Yeah.
So, I feel like in some ways film is playing catch up with that, with Spanglish film, and it's just the way a lot of people are talking. It's how I talk with a lot of my friends who speak English and Spanish. I speak to my daughter in Spanglish, although very little in the Span part of the English. She knows more English than Spanish, and I kick myself for that. But yeah, there's Spanglish spoken here at home. So it's just natural that it's going to happen in the film.
Yeah, and that's also Julie, part of like the seasoning of inserting certain character types, like the slang that we talked about earlier and sayings and stuff like that. Spanglish is a very particular type of person who speaks in Spanglish, and it can be a New Yorican or Puerto Rican, Americanized. Anyone that's Americanized now, that came before from a Spanish-speaking country, or someone who has spoken Spanish and recently came to the United States and now has acquired this like mix of languages, and that's how they express themselves. So it really does round out the character, to say that again, to use that analogy again. We have another question. All right. This one's for you, Les. You first. What do you think about the retelling reboots of sci-fi films and TV shows with diverse characters, like the new Charmed with Latinx and Afro-Latino protagonists, or Star Wars with people of color characters?
I will first start by saying that, and this is a weird thing to say, but it also speaks to what we're talking about, which I'm not into Charmed. So even if it's with characters that look like me, like I'm not gonna be into it. I'm sorry. Because I'm an individual, all right?
Right.
So I haven't seen it. I'm not interested in certain things. And as far as Star Wars with people of color, is the question about them a character that was Caucasian being turned Black? Is that what the question is, or
I
just
think
adding?
it's just adding people of color. Yeah.
I mean, that's what should be happening.
It's progress.
Yeah, that's what should be happening.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen a reboot that I'm like, oh my God. The only reboot that I've really, really, really enjoyed has been The Twilight Zone. But there hasn't been a reboot, I can't say that that has wowed me, that has brought anything like really just groundbreaking for me. I think, again, it's a superficial kind of casting and not necessarily hearty, if that makes sense. With people of color in Star Wars, I think it's fantastic. And I think John Boyega is the bomb.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a comment from Sasha G. You all are giving us some real jewels. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. Eunice, I feel like this is the first time that Eunice and I have done this, and I already have a feeling in my belly that we should do this more often. We should start a podcast. We should start a podcast or something. We start our own YouTube channel. We can talk about these things.
Oh, we have one more question, Les. You want to go for it?
You go for it.
Okay, Tanya says, will this live be available later? Asking about making it accessible for our students that maybe weren't able to see it today. We have lots of student filmmakers that should be hearing this. Yes, it is going to be available. Thank you so much for sharing it. That's awesome. There's some content in the initial clips that may be a little bit rough. They're trailers, so they were published online and on TV for a general audience, but just highlight that it may be a little bit disturbing to see zombie killings in the beginning. Where can folks find more resources? So resources, in terms of resources for like sci-fi and horror film, I think that obviously any network TV. Also, I would try YouTube and Vimeo. So YouTube actually has a lot of sci-fi streaming series going on there that are free, as does Vimeo, but YouTube more so, I find, has a lot of information. Also, there's a lot of content there for you to search. You can search like how-tos. There's a lot of do-it-yourselves online. And there's, now that we are in this weird, obviously pandemic, in this weird situation where we're home and we have access to like a ton of training, Sundance Collab has training that's for free. You can look at their resource files and they have everything. It's like everything you could think of, even like cooking, like filming shows for cooking and stuff like that. You can do a masterclass. Schools have free or low cost classes and other resources. So there's a lot there. Les?
Well, I have to say, my journey really began when I went on YouTube, because you can pretty much find you can find so much on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't find any sci-fi. I couldn't find a lot of sci-fi with Black characters as the main characters, or Latinx characters, Afro Latinx characters. I just was not seeing that on Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO. So I went to YouTube and I typed it in, and there was nothing. There was nothing I was finding that was fulfilling what I was looking for. And so that's why I decided to start.
Create your own.
Because I was like, well, I might as well just do it.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you. Like, I feel like we're starting. We're going to get this going. I feel good about this. I mean, Julie and Sasha said that they both want us to start the podcast. So we should do it. We should do it.
Very cool. Thank you so much, guys. I do, before we go, I want to share Leslie's poster. So Leslie, Dom, can you show Leslie's poster for his upcoming streaming series? So,
and this, you know, can I say something? This is another thing that is going to help us move forward.
Yeah, they can hear you.
I'm sorry? You know, no, I know they can hear us. What I was going to say is Eunice just, you know, she's singing my praises. She's bigging up my poster. This is what it's about. It's about supporting each other. I'm going to help Eunice complete her film and her series. You know, we're in talks about that. So, you know, we got to get together and help each other out, because in numbers we can get this done. We can get this going. I want to see it. Uh-oh, Eunice froze. Okay. Julie said,
Sorry,
yeah. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. It was frozen for some reason. Sorry about that.
Did you hear anything of what I said?
I heard about helping each other.
Yes.
Yes.
I was giving you props for recommending Poppy. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Welcome. You're welcome, my brother, for real. I'm really excited for you. I hope everyone gets to check out his streaming series. I'm really excited about it. And please check out his YouTube channel, because he really does break it down. And look for us on social media. And we're so excited to connect with everyone.
And also, just real quick, like, in your working your series is with Sundance. You're on the second round, right? Can you tell people about
that? So my Invade, the pilot, is actually in the final round of the episode for the 2020 episodic Sundance Episodic Lab. So I'll know in August if we get selected, and yeah, it's an exciting time. So real quick, I know that we have to hurry up. I want to just let everyone know, not to forget that the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival begins June 4th through the 7th. And tomorrow there will be additional filmmaker offering sessions. So please visit PHLAFF.org for more information. Thank you.
And we're going to start our podcast, sponsored by PHLAFF.
PHLAFF is fantastic, guys, and yes. Please follow them in every single platform, because they've been super supportive, just singing everybody's praises. And PHLAFF is actually a really good resource for filmmakers of any level. Yes. They're always willing to help. They're always willing to connect. And it's been a really, really, really good growth experience to be connected to that festival. So,
yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Guys.
And thank you, Eunice.
You're welcome.
Thank you, the tech guys behind the scenes. They don't get.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Cristal, thank you.
Thank you, Cristal. Thank you, Marangeli. And can't wait for the festival to start. Woo! Epa!
Vámonos! Bye, guys.
Bye.